What's up, Vegas?
Hello, Vegas.
How is everybody doing?
How you doing? But you must be doing good because the greatest television show of all time came back for another season, baby, and I'm pumped up.
It is crazy how good it is.
It's so goddamn good.
People say, well, it's not for the real fans. Like, we're real fans at this point. Like, we make a living off of it, you know?
Yeah.
We watch all the races.
We're professional fans. We're literally
professional fans. We watch all the races. We consume everything around the sport, and then we watch this, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
It's just so good. There's stuff in there that's just, even if you want to like nitpick, oh, well, they actually showed this. Actually, this was from this cool down room and they showed it in this one. It's storytelling, boobies. It's storytelling.
By the way, then you're not allowed to watch any film. Don't watch movies then. Don't watch any television. You're not allowed. If you complain about DTS, you can't watch television because that's how it all works.
Also, I'm just like, I'm watching it, and I'm like, honestly, besides the like, okay, well, actually, yeah, you went in there with your fine-tooth comb, and you said, well, this actually they showed this from this race, and it was actually from this race. It's the spirit of the thing. Lando beating Max. Do you think Max was happy about it? No! He wasn't. So if they showed a clip of him being upset in a different cool-down room, does it really matter? No, it doesn't. But this is the red flags brought to you by BetMGM. It's our favorite time of year where we get to dissect and analyze the show that made us this, that gave you this podcast, that gave you the future of Formula One and all of its glory. It's Drive to Survive, Season 7. We're doing an episodes 1 through 5 breakdown. If you want to see our episodes for 5 through 10, you got to join the Patreon. So go to patreon.com/TRFpod and become our benefactor today. That will be coming later this week for episodes 5 through 10. But let's talk about episodes 1 through 5.
I mean, can we just talk about the opening shot, like how brutal that was? It was just ruthless. Ruthless. It was just Christian Horner entering the frame.
Yep.
Followed by Jerry.
Yep.
And you're like, whoa, that is an aggressive way to start a show. Yeah. That is ruthless.
And it's the classic it's the classic like screenwriting thing and movie thing where like the person that starts, it's like if you ever see someone at the beginning of a movie and they're just talking about how awesome their life is and how awesome things are going, you just know where this shit is headed. And it's like he's in the car, he's just like, yeah, like greatest season of all time, broke this record, boom, broke this record, boom, broke this record, boom. Like, oh, everything's awesome. And then she says,
can you believe the year you've had? Yeah.
Can you believe
the
year
Jerry's like,
had?
You're awesome, dude. I couldn't love you more.
Yeah. And then it's like, this year's going to be tough too. And then she says, you never know what life's going to bring. Cut away.
You couldn't have written that. You couldn't have written that.
I can't believe they got that on camera. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
That is amazing that they got that on camera. Incredible that they got that on camera.
Yeah.
And then they get him, then they are there when he's going through it. When he's being, and Toto's, and then Toto had the best line in this thing.
Yeah. What
Toto distilled it perfectly. Toto's like, they're trying to get rid of him, but what does he have other than this?
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that is so true. Because Toto's like, if it gets a little hot for Toto at some point, he'll be like, whatever. Like, I got a bajillion. Like, I own businesses. Like, Christian, like, came up as a racer, didn't work out, started this thing, and then became Red Bull at 30.
Right.
Became the Red Bull team principal at 30. Like, this is it for him. Toto was like, this is all he has. He's got nothing else.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, that was so insightful by him.
Yeah. And
like, of course he's going to hold on. Of course. He's not going to resign out of, like, a sense of shit. He's not going to do Richard Nixon. Right. He's not going to do Richard Nixon and resign. He's like, you're going to have to fucking impeach me.
Right.
You're going to have to impeach me. It was such a good insight. I was like, thank God for this show. because we get to see Toto Wolff provide his, because he knows him. And it's like, he knew he wasn't going to, he knew he was going to fucking hold on.
Right. Yeah. And then, but what's interesting is that this year, like Toto, who had been the thorn in Christian's side for however many years watching this program, now all of a sudden it's Zach Brown. Now all of a sudden there's a new kind of guy jabbing at him besides on top of all the chaos, and you're watching him go through interviews where he's, you can't say this. Actually, he can't say anything. Actually, he's just going to sit there and be mute for this interview because there's an ongoing investigation, so he actually can't speak. He's just going to sign a couple of things.
Well, it was interesting because it was like the first episode was all like, oh, Christian's in this hot water.
Mm-hmm.
He's in all this hot water. He can't speak. He does a great... he's turning to Paul Smith being like, save me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he's like, can't really answer that. And then the next couple episodes, he's just back as usual, giving his normal insights. Like, for sure. Nothing happened. And it's like, that was a disconnect. Yeah. That was a disconnect for me. It was like, there was no sort of crossfade from like, okay, and we're back. It was just like, the first episode I'm sure it's a whiplash for everybody. It was the whiplash of like, I'm in this tightrope and, well, can McLaren really measure up? It's like, what? Mm-hmm. He's like, just because he's really one of the, like, other than like Will Buxton, he's been one of the better kind of talking heads in that show.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, back to your usual duty as talking head.
Yeah. Yeah. And they certainly do a bit of like, by the end of the season, it's just like there's so many instances where he's just like FaceTiming Jerry and hugging Jerry and with Jerry, and there's just kind of like, it's just kind of like, look how fine they are. Look how fine everything is. And I'm like, certainly they're aware of that. They're on camera. Let's make it, wait, everything's hunky-dory, everything's fine. But that's certainly, there wasn't a real deep analysis of that situation on like a personal level after that first episode, which I thought was bit of a missed opportunity.
There was that great, because it's interesting because like when you see the pictures of him and Jerry or whatever,
mm-hmm.
that's one thing. But when you watch it on video, there's something surreal in that because she's a famous person. She's been in the spotlight long enough. She has her face frozen because she's like, I can't have a bad picture.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that moment where he's got his arm around her and he's walking with her, and her face is just like an unnatural smile mask because she can't she can't ever not be smiling because she knows that will be the picture that they use of her looking
right,
like not happy. So it's like a totally surreal experience. Jenny is like throwing this in the chat. There's that great moment where they're in where Zach is being very circumspect and he's like, well, we got to have transparency and it's a very sensitive situation and this, that, and the other thing. It just cuts to Christian being like, yeah, Zach's a prick. He's a prick. Kick me. You really know who your friends are in these situations.
Yeah. There's also that moment where like after one of the wins, I think it was after the first win in Bahrain, where like Jerry's congratulating Yas.
That was nuts.
That was crazy.
The compartmentalization of that.
That was crazy. Because I mean that was wild. Because the reality is, and they weren't able to really get into this, but like, beyond, like, obviously there was this whole situation that went on last year. It went through the whole year. That's still there. It's being brought back up in the seriousness of those allegations, despite the fact that he was acquitted. But the behind the scenes element of this whole thing, of the Austrian side, the Thai side, where Yas was, where Marco was, they didn't really get into that. But this is why, if you're a fan who watches all year round, you're aware of this context. That moment was the most like gripping. My jaw was on the floor.
That meant nothing to casual fans. That meant nothing to casual fans.
Right.
Not really. I mean, they included the part where Yas said, Christian's tearing this team apart, but his presence is so much more loaded real fans.
That is just the fucking that's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that shit runs a lot deeper than just him talking to Toto Wolff about Max potentially going there, or like him mouthing off in the press about Christian. It goes a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, and then there was some subliminals, where the DTS gave real fans some Easter eggs where like it just cut to Marco every now and again. It just every now and again it would just cut to like Marco doesn't participate in Drive to Survive at all.
Yeah,
but they're like, it's like like people really want Christian dead, and then it would just be like a quick shot of Marco.
Yeah.
Like there's a real, and then there was that amazing moment where they asked Christian, he's like, somebody wants you out of here, and he goes, somebody does, and he smiles, and he goes, that's the $1 million question, and he smiles, and they're like, you know who it is, and he's just smiling, like,
yeah.
There's this whole fucking Game of Thrones thing happening.
Totally.
That Drive to Survive is like knows about, is cleverly alluding to, but can't say.
Right.
And is just showing giving the fans like enough, like the stuff with Yas, cutting to Marco, like just enough to just make it thrilling every time you see them together.
Totally.
Ugh.
Yeah. But I mean, this episode 1 also delves in what?
Jenny reminded her, Christian shaking Yas's hand at the podium. Yas, well done. And Yas went, okay, man.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely wild. There's more than just that situation that's profiled in the first episode. They get into a little bit of Lewis leaving, what's going to happen with Carlos Sainz. There's this amazing, beautifully awkward hug between Lewis and Toto, where Toto they're at the filming day, and Toto's like, I know what I'm going to say. Like, you don't have to tell me, press person. Like, I know what I'm doing. And then I just want to give him a hug. And like, Lewis goes in for the handshake. Toto goes in for the hug. Beautifully awkward moment captured on camera. Also, that moment where this is also where like Drive to Survive is so good. It's like that moment in the press conference where Lewis is asking Sainz about like, has Toto, have you talked to Toto yet? Like, has Toto reached out? And then Sainz is like, no, like he's and then he's like, and then he goes, and I feel like if he wanted to, like he would, like it's ultimate, like if he wanted to, he would.
Yes. Oh,
he's just not that into Carlos Sainz.
Oh, and then cutting to later when Toto is talking through all the drivers in the George episode, he's like, what about Carlos Sainz? And he just went, he's a great guy. And I went, devastating.
Oh,
devastating. Carlos Sainz is a great guy. He's a nice guy.
Oh,
that is, fucking devastating.
Yeah.
It's just like hit after hit after hit.
Yeah, and then Carlos at one point, in that same little exchange with Lewis, he says, like, do you think that Mercedes like has what it takes to like, get back to the top? And Lewis just goes, no.
No.
I was like, yes, dude. They did this in front of like the whole press. Like, I mean, this happened in plain sight, but only because of Drive to Survive had the mic the fuck up. Did you hear it?
No.
Oh, so good.
That was like, you know what that was? It was like, if he wanted to, he would. And then he's just not that into you. And he's like, don't worry, he's dog shit anyway. You don't want to date him. You don't want to date him.
Right.
Oh, God damn it. That's fucking unbelievable.
That was so amazing.
Oh, and then he's just like, and then Lewis just like doesn't care. And he's like, this car looks like shit. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
This livery,
he's like,
I like last year's livery was so much better. He's like 2 weeks notice vibes. Like, I don't give a fuck.
He's quiet quitting already. He's fucking full quiet quitting. Yeah. It's so, that's a beautiful, that's also another moment. Like that didn't make its way around the social around, I didn't see that clip anywhere. That's just like, wow, they caught that, that, and that was in front of everyone, but they caught it. We got to see it. Absolutely gorgeous, beautiful Yeah, Jenny said it's loud quitting more than quiet quitting, which is also true. Hey, I don't give a fuck. I don't want to be here.
We'll decide if we cut this. Jenny will decide. Obviously, we can never talk shit about Jenny because she'll just cut it. But when we were in Miami a couple of years ago, Jenny wrote "Light Dictatorship." When we were in Miami a couple of years ago, Jenny was still working at her other job.
Right.
And she was like taking meetings while in Miami with us, and she had like, I don't know, a hotspot going, and she had a Zoom going, and like she had her laptop like out as she was walking through Miami.
Yep.
And we're like, Jenny, we gotta go. She's like, I'm mobile. She's like tripping. And she was like, she was like, make a left here. Make a left here, guys. And then she was like, oh shit, I'm not on mute. Fuck.
Yeah.
She's like on some group call.
Let's also not forget that she then dropped her computer at not in Miami, but when we were in, I think, Austin. She dropped her computer, and then ever since then, it cracks. Like when she closes the computer screen, there's a loud crack, like
chiropractic noise every time she opens or closes the computer.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, let's move on. Episode 1. Fantastic. Bankers, this episode is brought to you by BetMGM. The season is about to start, and there are a bunch of picks that you can make. Make your 2025 season predictions. Put some money on it with BetMGM, and come see what's new at BetMGM. You can score bigger when you win with boost tokens, odd boost tokens, and more. Even if your bet doesn't hit, we've got you covered with no sweat tokens. Sign up with BetMGM today, and you'll have access to countless betting options, including new look same-game parlays, teasers, live bets, and so much more. Take advantage of these offerings and be sure to use the bonus code DADDY when signing up to receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Baby, I'm putting my money on Lando Norris to win this championship, baby. And if you got Lewis Hamilton, whoever you think is going to win the championship, you can make that bet right now on BetMGM. Go over there and use the bonus code DADDY when signing up because they'll know that we sent you, and you can receive, again, up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY for New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP for Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 for Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF for Indiana. 1-800-981-0023 for Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code DADDY and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Oh, there was that.
This is also This is also George's trying to flex more. I mean, when they were doing the driver shot.
Oh
he said, Daniel Ricciardo, are you balding? I was like, what is? And then Daniel Ricciardo's like, am I? I was like, you're such an asshole. You said, who are you?
We'll get into George the bully later when he throws Lando Norris's adorable little hat off of the fucking truck.
Oh my God. I was like, should I check on Brian after that moment? Brian
red. I was red hot.
Brian. Wait, what's so interesting is all these storylines that we speculate on, like, I'm like, do they listen to the podcast? Because they just created those storylines out of, like, they're like, Lando's the nice guy who gets bullied and nobody respects. And it's like, this is why Brian's been saying this for years about why he identifies with Lando.
Yeah.
I was like, they're reading Brian's mind.
No, they're just seeing what's true, dude. They're just seeing what's true. Okay, we're going to get to Lando because that's episode 3. Oh, no. Episode 2 is
Max
Lando.
and Lando.
Oh, yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, episode 2 isn't Lando Norris absolutely sweet, adorable, and a precious baby angel who must be protected at all costs? That's what episode 2 was. I was living for it. How can you not love Lando Norris after watching that episode?
But it was also like, they're setting him up like this sweet little lamb.
To slaughter. I was like,
Max plays with fucking Adam. Max has cats. It's like Max being a killer, and then it's Lando being like, ha ha ha.
Yeah, but come on, dude. That's the I mean, Max off track is a cutie, but Max on track, we've talked. This is not up for debate here.
When he just said, well, it was literally like it's literally Brian, like, you wrote this screenplay character that is Lando Norris. Because Brian was like
small growing up. He was tiny. he was overlooked because he was so tiny.
Bullied
for his stature.
Yes.
And while he's like he's a very rich, privileged young man, he has like a very just self-effacing, defeatist attitude. He's on camera being like, yeah, Max is probably just more of a natural born racer.
I was like, no.
I couldn't believe he said that. Could not believe he said that.
Brian, but you have said that you were like, he can win as a nice guy. Nice guys can finish first. And it's like, he wants to prove that. He's like, yes, he might be more of a born racer. Yes, he might be more of a sociopath. Yes. But I can win it my way. I can win it my way. That's like what he wants to prove. He doesn't want to change.
Right.
Everyone's like, will he become a killer? It's like, no, I won't become a killer, and I'm still going to win.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Well, here's the thing. It's like you might get one. You might get one that way.
No,
you might have the car and you get one. I mean, but it's interesting that they talk. Jensen Button's in this episode, guys. They talk about like the Lando no wins, and everyone's kind of like having fun with it. George Russell is like, it's a bit harsh. Like, yeah, that's tough. That's a tough one. But then they bring in, Jensen Button's talking about it, and Jensen Button, kind of similarly to Lando Norris, came in, highly touted British prospect, and it took him over 100 races in order to get his first win, and people kind of he had that reputation as well. He, in many ways, is kind of a lot. There's parallels of Button to Lando.
And Jensen Button is a very good driver. He was pretty close to Lewis when they raced together at McLaren.
Yeah, he beat him one year, too.
He beat him 1 year. He won a championship, and he beat prime Lewis.
Yeah.
Jensen Button fans will actually point out that he beat Lewis by so much that year that, like, he actually beat Lewis in those 3 years. He actually had more points than Lewis total.
Right.
But Lewis beat him the other 2 years by closer margins. But he won that one Brawn title, and when they had that big car dominance. But I think when you go through the history, which Brian and I have been doing more, you actually learn that, like, there are these guys that have one title that are really good, but they're not considered, like, the great ones. They have to be. There's a few things you have to do to be great. You have to be obviously really fast, which Lando is. You have to be really ruthless. There's a few other things other than being ruthless you have to be also ruthless off the track. Like, you have to be willing to just fucking leave and go and make the right like Senna, Prost. Even Fangio, I've been reading about Fangio. Like, Fangio would he would win. He would win a title at Maserati and just be like, "All right, I'm going to Mercedes now." He would just go to the next. He would just cut bait with the team. Go to the next team. I don't care that you gave me my start. Like, I think Mercedes is going to have the better car. Then I'm going to go to Ferrari. Fuck Ferrari. I'm going to go back to it's just
Lewis. I mean, look at Lewis.
Lewis.
When Lewis left McLaren, people were shocked. You are leaving McLaren. You go to this unproven Mercedes that's been like trash these last couple of years. Like,
Schumacher won 2 at Benetton. Was like, I'm going to Ferrari.
Yeah,
it's like you have to, and it's like Lando is like Lando signed that 2-3 year deal or whatever it was, and everyone thought, including me, thought he was an idiot. He's now looking smarter because he saw that deal. He signed there. But they're not actually repaying his loyalty necessarily with Oscar Piastri and, the equal driver sort of thing. So who knows? Actually, who knows if his loyalty is going to be rewarded?
Right.
So there's all these factors that come into all these factors that come into being like a great. And you're right. I think he can win one, but it's the question of, there are these guys that win one. Raikkonen won one. I mean, Raikkonen, he didn't really have he had the talent.
Work ethic, maybe.
He didn't have the work ethic.
Yeah, right.
To win more than
But it's interesting because, like, Lando, he's clearly, he overthinks. He talks about that. He's like, my biggest thing is I take what people say about me too personally. Like, I'm too aware of what's being said about me. I think I heard him talk in a press conference recently this year where I think that maybe he's off social media, where he's having someone else do it, which I think is a good idea. I think that he shouldn't like be on the internet in the way that he would normally be in coming into a season where you need to be as focused as possible, and you don't want to get distracted by the noise. But yeah, I mean, he was, just even, they're playing, he and Max are playing paddle, and they like go back to their car. Like, it's so beautiful.
Oh.
Like, and Lando's driving his like
a child car,
his toy, and Max is in his, SUV.
Regular adult,
ass, like man car.
He has a kid. He has a kid.
Right.
It's like I can't. Like he has a literal child that he looks after.
Yeah.
He's basically a stepdad at this point, and like this is a real man's car.
Yeah.
And Lando has a car that you and I would buy when we were in 8th grade if we had unlimited money. You know what I mean? Like, and you speaking about how Lando really cares what people think. You know how many times they cut to Max? They're like, "Hey, everyone thinks you're." Osama bin Laden out there. And he goes, I don't care.
Right.
I go out here, I do my thing, I go on my boat, I get drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he literally says, I drink gin, I don't care.
Yeah.
And they're such great, opposites. I think what's so great about some of these rivalries is not just, that they're so equal in terms of skill, but like ideologies. You get to see ideologies clash. And I think that's why like Senna and Prost was so interesting, because they were direct opposite, not in terms of ideologies. It's like, which ideology is better? Because Senna was all like passion, dominance, and Prost was the opposite in terms of like, what's the bare minimum I can do to win? How do I just make the numbers up? I'm going to win in a cold, strategic way.
Yeah.
Versus like hot, passionate way.
Yeah, and yeah, certainly that ideology is kind of like prepped in this thing. He feels that he calls Max one the greatest Formula One driver of all time. How will I ever be able to be there? You see the win in Miami. What's also I think interesting about Lando is I think I understand the partying aspect of it. Because sometimes when you're an overthinker, like you need to like you need an environment that's like, no thoughts here, baby. Like, quiet.
Oh, yeah.
Quiet is not a good environment for an overthinker.
Oh,
like,
no.
Your lonely bedroom, not a good environment for an overthinker. Couple shots on a boat in Amsterdam, I think great environment for an overthinker. And after that thing, he smacked his nose. He made the joke about how his nose, like it's an extra DRS flap, and he'll get a little extra arrow on the straights from the nose. That that's the first race he wins. And I think there's different strokes for how these guys handle it. And Jenson Button, going back to Jenson Button was,
a party animal.
A bit of a party boy in his day, and also a bit of an overthinker. I read his biography. He was definitely someone who like was similar to Lando in those ways, and also got got it out or helped himself through a party or two.
Very smooth driver, precise driver like Lando on the track.
Yeah.
But and that was such a great cut when they were like, do you think is the party boy reputation, is that fair? And he's just pausing, and it just keeps cutting back to don't. And he just goes, no. Oh, and then remember, dude, this has nothing to do with Lando, but Trump. Yeah. I was like, I wonder if they're going to do Trump. And they barely did Trump. They just were like, gotta show Trump. And then the only hit they did on Trump was George just going, Trump! He literally did Trump. They're like, who's here? What's that? Trump. And he goes, Trump! I want to see him.
Yeah. He goes, ooh, I want to see him. Ooh. Like he's like a fucking, like an elephant.
An animal
they brought in like a barnyard animal into the paddock. Bringing in this fucking weird ass hippo.
He's a curiosity. He's literally a curiosity to him.
Yeah. No, that episode was great. Yeah, George throwing Lando's hat, bullying him.
How much do you think they're reading about? Because I know in England they definitely read about like Trump is on their mind, but like how much do you think Trump factors into like people in Monaco? How disconnected do you think those people are?
Oh, I think they're connected on from a financial standpoint. I think they all have. I think
they're all like
a lot of
in
those
the
people
market.
Have business in America,
right?
And are
and
very,
they're maybe invested in the stock market.
Yeah, Exactly. Yeah. They're very aware of that kind of shit. Definitely.
Yeah.
Not on like a social element, or they don't necessarily give a fuck about like, well, they'll care about, the international implications of what he's doing. But
well, they're in Europe, which has implications for more big implications.
Yes, it does. But there was more things from this episode. Zach Brown in rare form. They had the slow-mo of Zach after the Miami win, and him just go like straight to camera, like. And I was like, oh my God. He comes up to Lando, he goes, broken rib time, and then gives him like this big Zach Brown hug. God, he is amazing.
That is so something Chris Farley would have said to David Spade in some fucking movie.
100%.
Broken rib time.
Yeah.
Like he is Tommy Boy.
Yeah, what other moments from this episode? There was George
throwing his hat.
Yeah, George throwing his hat.
And then Lando going, that was my only hat. It's like, dude, take his hat and fucking throw it.
Right.
Throw his hat.
Or as I would have done, I would have pulled his hand down and just like given him like 4 punches into the shoulder. That's what middle school Brian would have done. Just gone like bam, 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 bam into the shoulder. But he can't do that, I guess. But yeah, more amazing moments in this episode. There was the moment where after, because they detailed the whole back and forth in where do they have their Max and Lando? What race was that? Was that Hungary? Austria. In Austria, they had their back and forth where they crashed, blah blah blah. And then the next day, they're in the car with Lando, and he was like, so I woke up Monday, first thing 8 a.m. I was expecting a text from him. Didn't get it.
They're like in a situationship.
Totally. Crazy. It's a full situationship.
That's crazy.
And then before one of because then the episode ends with his win, obviously, in Zandvoort. Christian saying to Max before the race, he goes, Norris is shitting it. Like that, because here's the thing, like there's discussion about these guys' personalities, there's discussion about the mentalities, but like that, this is the shit that's being used as motivation. This is the shit that's being exploited on track. Like this is the thing before Lando, and also we'll get into Charles later, but like Charles also has a similar kind of like dynamic and vibe in a certain way. He's not a killer. He's not like a fuck you, fuck off mentality a la Max. Max is kind of the only guy of that generation that has, besides Oscar Piastri, who will be in if you want to hear our analysis of him, subscribe to the Patreon. But yeah, I think like, this is the thing that's being exploited. It's like Lando's shitting it. Like Lando's shitting himself is what, Christian's telling Max before the race, because that's what they're trying to exploit. Is Lando's
and whenever
nerves.
People, it's like we get in trouble for pointing this stuff out. It's like they're pointing it out.
Right.
They're pointing it out. Which is obviously, if they sense weakness, they're going to exploit it.
Right.
Just like if I sense a video is going to do well by talking about it, I'm going to do it. I have
to. Yes. Let's go on to the next episode.
Yeah, Lando says, I don't need to be a robot to win.
Right.
And it's like, that is something a lot of people want to get behind. It's like you can have it all.
Right.
You can be a good guy. You can have all the friends. You could be Mr. Popular and successful.
Right.
But there's other people that it's like that are subscribed to, if like people don't hate you, then if your people are hating you, then you're doing something right.
Yeah, well, this is also, this discussion also like around LeBron versus, Michael Jordan. It's like Michael Jordan was okay being hated. Michael Jordan didn't give a fuck. Michael Jordan was an asshole to his teammates. LeBron seems a great guy. Nice to everyone around him. Teammates all love him. All this stuff. But, when it comes to that discussion about the ruthlessness that sometimes it takes to get over that hump and to be considered just like the true great, because, the argument is LeBron's the best basketball player of all time, but Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. You know what I mean? Like that. LeBron's skill, LeBron's conditioning, LeBron's understanding
basketball
and knowledge
IQ,
of the game, basketball IQ is better than anyone else. But when it comes to crunch time, the argument is he's been to 10 finals and he's only won 4. He's lost more in the finals than he's won. That obviously never happened with Michael Jordan. He went 6 for 6. So this is these are the discussions.
Yeah, but the difference back then, I think, is Jordan was a complete asshole, son of a bitch guy on the court. He was a complete psychopath, and he was a gambling degenerate, right?
Yep.
That's how he was off the court. But he also had this public persona of being very relatable, very corporate, very brand safe. He had the Hanes shirts. He was in Space Jam. He actually had the best of both worlds because there wasn't that level of access to these athletes. They could sort of curate their image.
I mean, Max is Heineken. He's the face of Heineken. He's not I think he's less interested in some of it, but Max is the only one with the private jet because he's got it's not, and that's not only from his Red Bull salary. That's also because he's doing historic deals with places like Heineken. He's the face of a lot of these brands.
He's actually, but also somebody who probably has had the best of both is Lewis, right? Lewis has a very carefully crafted public persona.
For sure.
And we actually don't really know what he's like. Max, you kind of get a sense, he's probably even in his Heineken commercial, he's they sort of lean into that he's over it. He doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
He's the designated driver or whatever, right?
Totally.
And I think that's Lewis doesn't have that sort of. Lewis has that distance where he's I'm this magnanimous, brand safe guy who says all the right things, but then in private or on track, I might be a killer.
Yeah,
he's left space. Now Lando's just I want to be a nice guy all the time. On the radio, he's kind of a nice guy.
All right, guys, we're here to talk about our favorite sponsor, Dollar Shave Club. It's no surprise that facial hair is personal. It grows on your face. We all grow it, shave it, style it differently, and we think that's pretty fucking great. It all makes us more interesting. That's why in this club, we make the razors and you make the rules, baby. That's right. I'm not going to lie. I thought the Dollar Shave Club just made razors, but they do so much more than that. Whether you're going smooth shaven or maintaining a beard, Dollar Shave Club offers shave and grooming products that are always high quality and never, ever overpriced. Let me introduce you to some of their top sellers that we're going to make your grooming routine feel like a spa. First up, we got the Dollar Shave Club Series 6 Blade Razor. This isn't just any razor, okay? It's like a mini vacation for your face. With 6 stainless steel blades and vitamin E-infused lubricant strip, the razor delivers the closest, most comfortable shave imaginable. It's so comfy, your skin might want to just take a nap afterwards. Plus, the precision trimmer is perfect for those little detail areas because we know how important those are. Also, they have an amazing series of products that prep your skin for your shave and take care of it after. We got the shave butter. It's the top-selling shaving aid. It's true. I use it, and it's so much more helpful than when you put all the white, puffy gunk on your face because you're like, am I even getting this stuff? This goes on clear so you can see exactly where you're shaving. But don't take our word for it, Vegas. Try it for yourself at Dollar Shave Club. Products are now available everywhere, so you can order them from their website, Amazon, or get them at your favorite retailer near you. Alternatively, you can visit their site right now for 20% off, $20 or more. Get your products delivered right to your door. Visit dollarshaveclub.com/Red Flags and use the promo code Red Flags to get 20% off, $20 or more. And remember, whenever you shave, welcome to the club. Vankas, this episode is brought to you by Skims for Men. Yeah, did you know that they made Skims for the fellas? I didn't. Now I do, and I'm glad that I do because I got a couple pairs of the Skims underwear, and they are amazing. They are strong but soft, if that makes any sense to you. I think with boxer briefs, I got 2 pairs of boxer briefs. I got the stretch 5-inch and the cotton 5-inch boxer brief, and they're both great. the stretch. They're great for a workout. They're firm, but they're also gentle. This is what Skims is offering you, and it's so important that you have good pairs of, with those pairs of underwear where you look at them and you're like, yes, today is going to be a good day. That's what I feel when I look at my Skims pairs. My girlfriend's been, wearing Skims, talking about how great the products are, and I'm like, well, that's great for you, but that doesn't mean anything to me. Now it does with Skims. And you can shop Skims Men at skims.com and Skims stores. Let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcasts in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. It would help us out, feel great, and help out the red flags. That's what it's all about. Get on it and tell them that we sent you. They get into some of the other kind of more controversial stuff with Lando with regards to Oscar later in the season. But let's move on to episode 3. This is looking out for number 1. This is the what the hell is Mercedes going to do now that Lewis Hamilton is taking his talents to Maranello? This is another great episode. We get behind the scenes chats with Susie and Toto. Toto is kind of overwhelmed by the process of it. He feels betrayed a little bit. He's like, why? He's confused at the timing. He's talking about how, Fred is one of his best friends, one of his oldest and best friends in the paddock, and Fred's just kind of there with his like smug, shit-eating grin, being like, I just absolutely robbed you blind.
There's great shots of him in the earlier episodes of him just peering impishly.
Yeah. And then there's a talk about like who are they going to replace Lewis with? And there's a
Susie
question.
Wolf
There's two questions.
Down.
It's who are they going to replace Lewis with? And is George really going to be the guy who's going to lead this team?
Yeah.
And
Susie Wolf. In my bad books.
About what? The Fernando moment?
She just went Fernando and made a stank face. I said, how dare you? How dare you?
I thought about you during that moment. I said, Matt's just threw something at the television screen. He goes, Alonso, he's still quick. And Susie goes, ugh.
She went, meh, Fernando.
They go about, they're talking about, obviously we mentioned Carlos Sainz. Yeah, he's a great guy. He's so nice. God, is he nice.
This was actually the most fucked up episode from an editing standpoint.
Okay, go on.
Because wasn't Spa was the race he lost that race?
Oh, they totally yes.
He fucking They were like, well, this race proved to me that George has what it takes. It's like, actually, no, he did a strange strategy.
Yeah.
Lewis had him that day.
Yeah.
Lewis did the conventional strategy. George was a riverboat gambler like he always is. He was fucking Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems, and he got his head blown off by the FIA at the end. That's what happened.
Yep.
George was like, this is how I win. But it hit, and he got his fucking brains blown out. That's what actually happened.
Right.
But George was like, Toto was like, this proved to me that George had what it is. Like, no, he always does this shit. He always is bad. He always does some crazy shit, and sometimes it pays off. That is not what you want in your lead driver.
Totally.
That was the worst. I've only seen the 5 so far, but this was the worst example of like, this was completely manipulated. The truth is, the narrative, this is the narrative that they want because he wants Kimi in there. The person who's manipulating, the person who's actually doing the manipulation is Toto, not DTS, because Toto has to say to himself that George is the senior current leader of the team because he wants to bring Kimi in.
Yeah.
That's what he wants. So he's
wants,
retrofitting
George
that storyline.
George has to be that because Kimi's not going to be the leader of the team because he's 18 years old.
Yeah.
But then, there was a moment, but then they also kind of go into the max of it all because the reality was who he wanted to be the leader of the team was Max Verstappen. When it comes down to what actually happened with Mercedes last year was that Toto thought, in a very George mentality, there is a 1% chance that Max Verstappen's going to come.
He said it.
Yeah. But at a time there maybe looked like there was a better chance. There was at a time there was maybe a bigger chance. But anyway, he wanted Max to be the leader of the team. And then when Max was clear, Red Bull was winning, Red Bull was doing well, and Max, it was all the noise. He actually wasn't going to leave. Then he finally goes back. He goes to Kimi, and he's like, actually, George is going to be the leader. Yeah, look what he did in Spa. Despite don't pay attention to what happened after the race. But there was also that moment where he said to Susie that he promised Lewis that he wouldn't talk to Max.
That was so crazy.
That was an amazing insight. I didn't know that. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. But that's like not a thing that you would know unless you see it on Drive to Survive, is that he made a promise to Lewis that he would not have discussions with Max Verstappen while Lewis was there. But now that Lewis is going to Ferrari, he's like, I can finally call that girl. I mean, it's like you're living with your ex and you're allowed to finally, like, you know, the girl who's been flirting with you at work, you're finally allowed to take her on a date. And that girl who's been flirting with you at work is Max Verstappen. Or it's really an unrequited love because Toto's just been, it's the long lost love of Toto's life, which they don't really get into, which I was like, that was a missed opportunity. They don't get into like that he's always wanted Max, actually.
I watched It Ends With Us.
Okay.
Justin Baldoni's character. So Blake Lively had a boy that she used to love in high school.
Right.
And she runs into him at a restaurant.
Right.
And first you think he's a waiter, then it turns out he owns the place, and she's got to choose between these two rich hot guys. Oh no. Yeah. But but Justin Baldoni just goes, not him. Can't talk to him. That's my one rule. Right?
Right.
Not him. It's like,
right.
This is early on, by the way, like where he seems like he's a good guy, right?
Right.
And it hasn't been revealed that he's abusive. He just goes, not him. Don't talk to him. It's my one rule. Oh, and then she obviously, when things are looking tough, she whatever. I'm not going to get into it, but like she talks to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was like, my one rule. You know what I mean? I gave you one guy not to talk to. That was Lewis's, not him. Not him.
Anyone
to Toto. And then, of course, spoiler alert, you know, the second Justin Baldoni's had a picture,
right?
Who does she go to?
Right.
Who does she run to?
Yeah. The guy she told you not to worry about.
Right.
That's what Max Verstappen was for Lewis, and Lewis knew that. Lewis was aware that he looked on Toto's phone once and he saw Toto swiping through pictures of Max Verstappen's, you know, podiums, and he said, no, you will not be talking to that young man over there until over my dead body.
But in this version of This Ends With Us, Blake Lively went running back to the high school sweetheart, and the high school sweetheart was like, and this actually scans perfectly because they had a relationship when Max was literally in high school, him and Toto.
Right.
It actually is a perfect metaphor. So in this metaphor, though, Blake Lively, which is Toto Wolff, goes to back to Max, being like, I'm here, baby. And he's like, no, thank you.
Actually, never mind. Never mind. Even though my dad wants us to be together, like, I'm not, no. It's like the dad.
Which is the opposite, by the way, of
It Ends With Us.
It Ends With Us. Her dad really didn't want them to be together.
Right. Yeah, there's great. So then he's like having to navigate. Toto's having to navigate this. You're watching Toto navigate this situation. And we're watching him interact with George Russell, which every time they interact with George Russell, it's George Russell's need for Toto to love him is just, it's pouring out of his vein. Like it's seeping out of his every pore of his being. He is dying for Toto Wolff to think that he's awesome. When they go like,
go boating,
diving or whatever.
Diving.
Lots of, shots of in the water, out the water, like going into the abyss and coming out and being reborn. They love those shots on Drive to Survive, especially this season. Let's not forget the Daniel Ricciardo moving to Renault moment. But yeah, like when he says like they're talking to the instructor who's going to take them on the boat, and he goes, we just don't want to drown my driver, and he like pats George on the shoulder, and then George like slams Toto's shoulder like yes, Toto. He's like he wants Toto's approval.
It's so devastating,
so badly.
It's so devastating.
It's brutal.
I think if I had a withholding father,
yeah,
I wouldn't be able to watch this. It would be impossible to watch. You know, even when he says, he goes, I've known George.
Well, I figured it out. It's not that bad, but you know.
No, my dad was very sweet to me for the most part, but then it was just like something would happen 1 week, no speaking.
Right. Yeah, the silent treatment.
I get a silent treatment for a week, but most of the time it was fine. Just be like, wow, you and the two men in the house are not speaking to each other. But what's interesting is that, I mean, even when he's like, I've known George since high school, since he was a teenager, right? All of his flaws. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, starting with that.
He started with flaws. It's just like, it's got to be, there's this movie All About Eve, right? They have these movies, right, where it's like the aging actress is sort of being supplanted. Black Swan, same thing.
Yep.
I mean, there's a twist, which we won't get into, but like, or Substance, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're the older person, and then the new shiny thing comes in, and how devastating that must feel like. It's like George was Kimmy at one point. And it's just the shine has kind of come off George a little bit, because George, while is like a 9 out of 10.
Right.
As a driver. He's like an 8.5, 9 out of 10.
Right.
But he's not a 10 out of 10. Not yet.
And
Kimmy has that 10 out of 10 potential.
Right. And let's remember that George, when Lewis is like, when Toto's like, my first interaction with George was him giving a PowerPoint presentation to me about why he should be a Mercedes driver. So from the jump, George was pleading with Toto. Like, that's how the relationship started, and that's how it continues to this day. Whereas Kimmy doesn't need to plead. Toto's going to Kimmy's like little fucking DTM car,
wearing his little.
He's wearing the merch. Kimmy's like, look at you, dressed up in a costume to make me feel good. Toto starts out with, how was school? He starts off with, how was school? I was like, Jesus.
And let's not forget that Kimmy destroys George's car.
Yeah.
In free practice. And Toto's like, all good, Kimmy. All good.
Don't worry, actually, Kimmy. It's okay.
He was going so fast in those 2 mini sectors. Like, you don't even believe. You can't even believe how fast he was going. George's got a fucking trash car.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
There was a great moment where you see Kimi Antonelli's like room, his childhood bedroom. I wrote down some of the most interesting things that were in there. He had a picture of
a
Senna.
Bear.
He had a picture of Senna with like a quote on it. He had the Senna, that blue Senna like Nacional hat, which is a sick hat. He had a Mercedes Lego set. And then he had the big ass teddy bear, which he calls
Toto Bear. Insane.
Yeah. And then his trophies are just like spilling into the hallway because he's got so many of them.
Yeah. And then there was that incredible moment where they're at the photo shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And the one of the photographers was trying to make them laugh. He goes, "Where's Lewis?" Ha ha ha. And they all laugh. And Antonelli's like, "What does this mean? Where's Lewis? Like, I don't understand the joke." And it's like, because he's not here. It's just a joke. And he's like, "Oh, I see." It was so adorable that he didn't get they had to explain the joke to him.
Right.
And then Toto goes, "It's British humor. You'll get it eventually." Like,
yeah.
Why would they ask where Lewis was?
Right.
Like,
just not getting it at all.
Yeah.
With British humor, when George says like that he said like when I heard about Lewis leaving, my first thought was, blimey. I was like, that was not your first thought, George Russell. Your first thought was, holy fucking shit, because that's who you really are, my guy. Yeah, great episode. Most about of Pravda in this episode with the spa thing. All right, let's keep it rolling. Episode 4. Enter James Vowles, the king of the goofy white nerds. It's like, It's literally like, nerds, assemble! And they're like going on a fucking little run in their matching outfits, and they're like, let's go on a jog, prepare for battle, led by me, dude, James Vowles.
Unless you're the greatest, like, you couldn't pay me $1 million to do a walk and talk with you while jogging.
Totally.
I know, like, I have a sense of awareness of how I look when I run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Also, I'm not in excellent shape. So
right.
I'm not a fucking Kenyan professional marathoner. I cannot carry on a great conversation at a certain pace. Also, if you're going at a good pace, you shouldn't be able to carry a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
When you're jogging.
No, dude, that's when you're in zone 2, dude. Zone 2.
He tried to do it in zone 2. He was like, yeah, we got a lot of exciting things going on. Important future in front of us.
Yeah. There's nothing that can stop us. With this team we've assembled. Yeah.
It's like, dude, you put your foot in your mouth sitting on your ass. You trying to up the difficulty here? What is wrong with this guy?
Yeah.
Across the next 10 years, we'll be the team to watch.
Yeah.
Nailed it. It's what I do.
Yeah.
It's what I do. You know what I've said this. You know what it's like? You know what's interesting though? Thank God for Formula One. Thank God all the fucking nerds, the optimization nerds. There's so many more nerds. Think about how many nerds are in this sport instead of in politics. Thank God.
Right. Keep the billionaires and the nerds in
Formula One, and keep them out of fucking politics.
Get Elon Musk out of the White House and get him onto the Formula One.
Give him a fucking Formula One team.
Let him play in that sandbox and leave the fucking government alone, please. Jesus.
Yes. So that's why I love Formula One. Totally. And I should applaud having nerds in Formula One. It's where they belong.
Totally. Yeah, but I gotta now that they've figured out like what you do with James Vowles is that you hype him up so that the reality of him comes off funny, because he thinks that he's like in Gladiator when really he's in like Dazed and Confused. Like,
he's in Office Space.
Yeah. Yes.
He's a character out of Office Space, but anyway.
Yeah, he's the character. He's the guy at the office who you hate.
Yeah.
And that's James Vowles. But he's getting, honestly, like, I don't know, it's starting to get endearing now that, like, we figured out what to do with him on some level. Like, he comes in with like the classic rock music, and it's just like, that's so not this guy. And then it was a beautiful, because this episode was like, it's James Vowles, it's the competition for who's going to get Carlos Sainz, because Carlos Sainz is not going to a good team. He's going to go to Stake, or he's going to go to Williams, and then at the end, Alpine throws their hat in the mix, and you get introduced to Flavio, and you get introduced, because it's kind of the battle of these three personalities. It's the two Italian like killers, and then dorky James Vowles. Carlos
is the belle of the shittiest ball.
Yes,
to ever be.
Yes.
Yeah, no, and this episode was amazing. This was like another one where I was like, are you kidding me, GTS haters? They had James Vowles sitting there.
Yeah.
With the contract.
Getting stood up. I mean, at the restaurant in the suit with the flowers, and then the server just kind of keeps coming over asking him if they want
filling the water
yet.
Yeah.
Pour some water, not another glass of wine. No, I really shouldn't. I'm sure that she's just stuck in traffic. I'm absolutely sure of it. No, what really happened was hot ass Flavio Briatore gave Carlos Sainz a call and said, "Hey, don't get with that guy. Come over to me."
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. This Italian lawyer who runs Stake. I did not know who this guy was. He does it. Yeah.
Grand opening, grand closing with that guy.
Opening, grand closing, but he made a splash, baby.
Yeah,
he came in hot.
Yeah. He's a lawyer.
Yeah.
Will Buxton was like, he's a really good lawyer. I was like, how the fuck do you know? Have you seen him redline a contract? What the fuck do you know about his lawyering skills?
He's a lawyer. I'm like, okay, go on.
No, but Will Buxton, like, he's a really good lawyer. What the fuck does that mean?
Well, he clearly has a reputation. I think he's like been around the paddock for a while. But yeah, it was another like this guy's acting like he's like, running it's like
a Fortune 500 company.
This is the worst team on the grid. This team sucks.
Yeah.
And you're
he
like,
goes, we are stake. We are new. We are exciting. I'm like, okay.
It's like, no, you're stinking up the bottom of the order is what you're doing.
Yeah. It's like, dude, you're a lawyer. They have a lawyer running the team because like they're in like foreclosure and it's like in a fucking estate sale.
Yeah.
That's the vibe. It's like when a lawyer is running things, that's when you know that everything's fucked up.
Things have not gone well.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So he thinks that he's landed Carlos Sainz. He doesn't. Carlos Sainz stands, he's stood up by Carlos. Because then we get Flavio. We have amazing kind of sound bites of Flavio. He's talking about how he hates. He's like, this is why everyone in England is depressed. This weather sucks. Everyone in England is sad. Everyone in Rome is happy. He says something like that. And then he's like, they go into his history. He's a controversial guy. He says, quote, I'm strong enough, I'm wealthy enough to tell people to stay away from me. I don't care. I mean,
hero.
People are jealous of me because I'm not diplomatic.
When he goes into the Alpine place, they're like, notice anything different? He's like, less trophies.
Yeah, dude. He rocks. This is where a guy like him belongs. You don't want a guy like him in Parliament. You want a guy like him running a Formula One team. That is exactly where he belongs. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. This is where corruption belongs. This is where race fixing this is where
exactly.
This is where you want manipulation. Better manipulating a race than the stock market or crypto or whatever the fuck it is.
Then he had these great moments with Doohan. He tells Doohan like, I control, or is that in a later episode? You haven't finished the season.
I haven't seen that. I just saw there was that one clip, the only clip of Doohan where he was like, Carlos is the paddock slut.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. Doohan calling Carlos the paddock slut. Amazing soundbite. Perfect. Yeah, so it was beautiful. And then by the end,
Too much Carlos Dos. Too much Carlos Dos.
A lot of Carlos Dos.
A lot of Carlos Oniero, his cousin. Also, when
Carlos.
You actually when we talk to Gunther Steiner, when you talk to people, when you hear like experts talk about Carlos and his career, they're always talking about how his father is pulling the strings.
Yeah.
Like, well, Carlos Sr., he's going to be, him and his father are going to be really careful with they're very deliberate. Carlos Sr.'s got a lot of relationships. It's always Carlos Sr. as the godfather.
I think the vibe is that Caco, they call him, right?
I don't. We call him Dos. Carlos Dos.
We call him Carlos Dos. Anyway, Carlos Dos. He's like he takes the meetings and then he calls Carlos Sainz Sr. and tells him what happened in the meetings. And I think Carlos Sainz Sr. like is the most trusted voice in the room. I think that's like how these situations go. Carlos.
Yeah, but who's
Carlos
negotiating?
Sainz Sr. isn't gonna go and meet with James Vowles for a cappuccino in Silverstone because he's got other shit going on. But he will be reported to, and he will.
But
help
there's that great clip where Carlos Oniero is like, yeah, it could be tomorrow, it could be 2 weeks. I don't actually know because it's gotta check with dad. Gotta check with dad.
Yeah, but they kind of position Vowles as kind of an underdog in this situation, which he was. I mean, we didn't think that Gunther didn't think that it was going to happen. We didn't think it was going to happen. That Williams was going to land Carlos Sainz. We're like, absolutely no way. Clearly, Audi seems like it's the more logical play. But at the end of the day,
was it Lando that kind of spelled it out perfect? Lando and Zach kind of laid it out. It was like, well, short term, you'd want to go to Williams.
Yep.
Long term, you want to go to Stake.
Yep.
And that was kind of the best distillation of it.
Right. This episode is brought to you by Southern Comfort. With a one-of-a-kind blend of fruit and spices, SoCo whiskey is the original ready-for-anything spirit. Satisfying on its own and ideal in any mixed drink, Southern Comfort is easy to enjoy however you drink it and whoever you drink it with. We think SoCo can go with everything, but you be the judge. Find your comfort zone and try out a cocktail today. Some opinions, what you can try. These are the ones that I personally enjoy. SoCo with lemonade. Ooh, get that little bit of sour with the sweet and a little bit of that punch. Delicious. SoCo with orange juice if you want full sweetness hitting your gullet. Or, of course, classic SoCo Cola. Mix it with your Coca-Cola or your Pepsi, or keep it Pepsi Zero or Coke Zero to keep it tight, dude. Okay, no matter what the moment, Southern Comfort is ready for anything packed with flavor, mixes with anything, and easy to drink. We challenge all of you out here to find your comfort zone. Try out some Southern Comfort mixed drinks and send us your favorites. We'll shout out the best ones on a future pod. Pick up some Southern Comfort today, Venkas. Now back to the show.
Although maybe, honestly, I don't know, dude. I think short term you might want to maybe go to Alp. You could argue Alpine might be better than Williams in these next 2 years.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, this year will be. I think that seems like it's going to be the battle for fifth place. Will be between the two of them. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, but Vowles wins in the end. You know, he wins in the end, and they rehash that scene. Vowles is back at the restaurant, and Carlos Sainz actually shows up. He walks in, he goes, you're prepared. Nice.
It's
okay.
Like we've been sitting here for 3 weeks.
3 weeks. We've been in this for 3 weeks.
They shot it just like Silence of the Lambs, where it's like you don't know who's walking through which door.
Yep.
Masterful filmmaking.
Beautiful filmmaking. All right, and let's get to the final episode of for this round. Episode 6 through 10 will be on the Patreon. But we got Le Curse of LeClerc.
Every episode has at least one moment where you're like, God damn it, I love this show.
Yeah.
God damn it, thank God for this show.
Yep.
And the moment for this was obviously in the beginning where he's at the bodega. He's picking out things. His credit cards declined. First of all, I don't know what currency they used over there. Is it the euro? Probably the euro.
Probably the euro, yeah.
But he puts all this shit on the thing, and it's 11 euro. And I'm like, does inflation not exist in what's the price of eggs in fucking Monaco? That's awesome.
It's cheap, baby.
No taxes, probably. It's like 11 euro. That was my first crazy thought.
Right.
And then insufficient funds? How bad do you have to be at adulting to be that rich?
How does Charles Leclerc have a bank account with no money in it? That's insane.
Well, as somebody, you and I could probably take a guess. He probably gets paid through like a shell corporation.
Right. Yes.
He keeps most of his money like rich. When you're that rich, you probably keep most of your money in the fucking market.
Yep.
And then you probably when someone writes him a check for $12 million, it doesn't go to Leclerc's bank account. It goes to some fucking holding company.
But give him 100. Put $100K in the bank account, baby. Give the kid. He can't buy a $12 bodega fucking eggs and a bag of chips. What's happening? And his Coke Zero. He was getting Coke Zero.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, that's happened to me once or twice where I'm like, whoa, I gotta move the money. That's because I don't when I get paid now, I don't put it in I used to just be like, right, give it to Matt Ellis Offen. Give it right. Send it right there because baby needs it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I sold a show. I've told Brian this story. The first time I sold a show, I made it out. I said, make it out to me, but I don't have an address. I'm homeless. So send it to Chris Douglas's house.
Beautiful.
And I kept calling our mutual friend being like, is the check arrived? Is the check arrived? Because I had and then I had to spend $30 on an Uber of my $100 in my checking account.
30% of your bank account.
30% of my net worth to get the check.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But this is the Monaco episode, the rich episode. There's Gasly's on the yacht. He's on the boat, and they're talking about it's how it's $70,000 a day to park the yacht. And he's like, Jesus Christ. Like, oh my God, that's crazy. I like that there's like levels to rich, even for these guys who are so rich and live these fabulous lives that they're like, oh my, like that Pierre's like, whoa. And I think that was Pierre's girlfriend on the boat with him.
Yeah.
And there was like a vibe though. I was like, dude, like you're good for it, dude. You're good for it. Like,
He's
don't
actually
let the
not.
people know.
He's actually not, because if he probably makes like $4 or $5 million a year, like he's could not afford.
Good for it. He's definitely
he could not afford to spend $70,000 a day on a yacht.
Absolutely not.
That's like millions of dollars a year if you just leave the yacht there.
You'll see in the later episodes that they go to Singapore. They have the drivers all do like little vlogs. They give them each like a phone to just film themselves the whole week, and it's George, Albon, Lando, Charles, I think it's just them, and Gasly, and Albon and George are flying commercial. They're flying in first class, but they're flying commercial, and they're like, it's like, yeah, we fly commercial. You know, he's like, Lando's flying with Max, which is nice. You know, that's good for him. But like, you know, it's like I could fly private, but like, you know, I don't. I fly commercial. But
you know what's crazy though?
Fascinating.
If I'm Lando, I'm like, I'd rather just fly fucking first class than have to.
Yeah.
What are you doing flying with him?
Be indebted to Max. I know.
No, but what are you doing? Don't fly with him. What is wrong with? That's my thought. What is wrong with you?
Well, it's mine. It's like, yeah, come fly on my private jet, and I'm supposed to then be like, yeah, I'll beat you. Like I can't afford to fly private, and I'm flying on your big ass black and orange jet. But no, it's just like the divvying up of this. That was even there. There was that great moment Albon said about when Lewis signed to Ferrari. He goes, great for Lewis, great for his bank account. You know, just great little quotes like that.
Albon's the king of the quotes. Albon, when he was like,
king of the quotes.
I know a good Buddhist, I know a good monk in Thailand that could help him out.
Well, they're discussing if Charles is actually cursed, right?
Yeah.
And Gazzy's like, he's not actually cursed. Like, shut up. And then Bottas is like, seems pretty cursed to me. That seems like a fucking curse. I was like, yes, Bottas. Yes.
Yeah. Like, leave it to the guy who, what's that fucking movie that Florence Pugh is in?
Which one?
Oh, God. The Nordic movie.
Yeah.
I hated that.
What is that called?
Well,
Midsommar.
I hated the Midsommar. I hated the way that movie ended. But,
yeah.
But, yeah, leave it to the guy from like Midsommar to be like,
there's be like, it's cursed. That's a curse. Yeah,
it's cursed. No, I know my curses.
Yeah,
that's cursed. Someone put a hex on him. Someone sprinkled pubes in his drink, and now he's fucked.
Yeah,
which is from
you see Charles. You see Charles, kind of hanging around Monaco. He's at the local bodega. He's getting stopped everywhere. But you go into his house. Did you spot the samurai? That he had in his house?
That was sick. And it was just kind of like thrown in a corner.
Just there.
Just like if you had it in your dorm room. Just like just kind of parked. He's the man, dude. I love him so much. He's got the sort of look of the house is kind of just chaotic.
Yeah. Totally.
It's kind of
the piano is just like in the middle of the. It's like the piano is just because these Monaco apartments, even if you're rich as hell in Monaco, your apartment is not that
small,
big, and so having a grand piano, a big ass white grand piano, just like doesn't fit in a Monaco apartment, no matter how rich.
He's getting his hair cut in his bathroom, like he's 6 by his mother.
Yeah, that was amazing.
He's so. He's like as relatable as you could be.
Totally.
Like there's something so relatable about a guy who's like worth bajillions of dollars. He's so handsome, yet he's going to the bodega, he's buying his shit, he's riding on his bicycle everywhere. He's like
credit cards getting declined.
His credit card's getting declined. He's like on the day of the race, he's biking there.
Yeah.
And he's like the neighborhood. He's like the varsity quarterback.
Yes.
Is what he is of that town.
It's Friday Night Lights.
That's how it feels. He's Friday Night Lights. It feels so provincial.
Jason Street, dude.
he's Jason
he's
fucking
Matt
Street.
Saracen, dude. He's Matt Saracen, and he's the hero that Dillon, Texas didn't know it needed, dude.
It's Or wait, he's the guy. Right, he's the guy who actually gets hurt.
Well, no, he's not. He's not.
Not this episode.
Yeah.
But he seemed like the cursed Booby Miles.
Right.
He seemed to be. There's a Booby Miles quality to him a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was so cool. Like, Aaron Judge would never like go to a Yankees game on a bike through Yonkers or the Bronx or whatever the fuck it was. Like, that's nuts.
Right. He's like walking his dog. He's walking his dog, and everyone's like stopping their cars to take pictures with him. And he's like, "All right, yeah, all right."
He's got literal shit in his hands.
Yeah,
as he's taking pictures with fans.
I love him. How can you
greatest.
not love him? He's amazing.
He's so relatable. He's so fucking relatable. It's crazy. His apartment looks like how I would decorate my apartment. Totally. Oh yeah, samurais are sick. Let me just throw it there. I would totally have a samurai thing. That's just cool. Like, every time I'm in a museum, I just go straight to the armor. I go straight to the weapons. There's like Renaissance paintings behind me. I'm like, show me the guns. Show me the weapons. Show me the armor.
Good shit.
Give me the good shit.
Yeah, he goes through the whole story with his father. That's a story that we'd heard before on the show. We're obviously aware of that. He told his father that he was signed to Formula One before he was, because his father was on his deathbed. He wanted to give him that kind of last moment of joy before then. Though he talks about how his mother didn't want him to do that, and that he felt like kind of regret about doing that. But it's a beautiful story, and it culminates with the win, the beautiful win, and it also goes into a bit more of the Fred relationship. That Fred has always, he's known Fred for so long. Hey, if you want to hear more about that, you can go to our interview on this page that we did with Fred Vasseur before he was fucking cool, dude. We got Fred Vasseur on when he was still at Alfa Romeo, now known as Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber, futurely known as Audi. We got him first. But and we asked him about his relationship with Charles, because he was with Charles in the junior categories, and he says like Charles is too hard on himself. That he doesn't need to be so kind of vocal on the radio about his shortcomings, and he says that in this thing, that Fred's great at calming him down, that Fred's great at kind of like letting him get back in the zone and be kind to himself. And yeah, it ends with that, and Fred, obviously, who knew Charles's dad, kind of talking about what a special moment it was, which was a beautiful, beautiful moment.
It was very emotional.
Yeah.
Watching him try to fend off Piastri, who they depicted as completely psychotic in this episode.
Dude, they've turned Piastri into the full villain on this season. Wait till you get to the later episodes with him and Lando. It's Piastri's giving full villain vibes.
Oh my god!
But if you want to hear us talk about that again, join the Patreon. Link is in the description. But yeah, those are the first 5 eps of the season.
What was your favorite part?
My favorite part
of these 5.
That little conversation. I mean, we talked about that conversation between Carlos and Lewis. It's like, it's what you imagine these conversations. It's like you're like, yes. Like, that's what they're talking about.
I don't know. I really did get chills watching him bike to the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just waving. Yeah. Everybody's like, oh, it's fucking Chucky, baby.
Yeah.
It felt grand, but also small. Something very small.
And that's Monaco, baby.
Yeah. Intimate.
Kid from Monaco. It really is. I mean, obviously, and the fact that he's like didn't come from, he was poor by Monaco standards.
No, he's a local. He was a local. It's like literally like when you go to the Hamptons, right? There are the townies,
right?
That service the rich people when they come there.
Right.
And he was a fucking townie, dude.
Yeah, the townie won Monaco. I mean, it's an amazing story.
Yeah,
amazing story. Yeah. So we got episodes 6 through 10 coming out later this week. Also, Vanka Hours. First episode drops on Wednesday. Be sure to be there. Subscribe to the pod if you haven't already. And we're going to start doing our daddies at the end of the episode. Once again, this is the Red Flags brought to you by BetMGM. And but we also got to thank our daddies of the pod, baby. We got to thank Kayla, Robin, Jordan Texera, Jade Lingle, Spencer Grieve, Javier Mera, Sheila Valeri, Chandler, Ali Santana, Carla, Juarlo, Kimberly, Whalen, Alonso of My Face 69, Donya Denad, Deadbeat Daddy Muhammad, Jimmy, Kimmy, sponsored by Mommy of the Pod, Hollister 584, Live Lot, Cat, Future Dog Tour Dion, Steph Grossi, JB Fresh, Laura, Emily Gillenwater, Cody Hull is my F1 daddy, Branch W, keep up the Sainz hate, Hunter Scruggs, Salmonella Mozzarella, I'm a LeClerc fan, and yes, it hurts, but it didn't hurt watching that 5th episode. It hurt, but in a good way. Jay Kess, George Russell is evil Peter Parker from Spider-Man 3, Matt Edwards is always right, I wish I was Max and Danny's love child, Delaney Andrews, Henry Caskey, Miles Lewis Alexander, the real Toto Wolff, Maggie B, Kaylee Breyer, Eve the Y, Aaron Fiber, Devin, a.k.a. the future Dr. Sullivan's PA, Courtney Frazier, Yuki Sonoda's other mother, Austin, Megan, Aaron, Pineapple with a Y, Matt has a secret boner for Carlos Sainz. Unfortunately, it's Gary, Carolina, my name is AJ, and fuck the HOA. K-Mag can fuck smash my door any day. The official F1 race program and its executive editor, Sarah. I got tickled by the Tifosi. Hey, Jet, good luck out there. Allison Sane, Zhuzh, F1 Dude Company. Trent Slickman, Code Brown Sonoda. Jerome Ferreira, Colapinto is a fraud. Aaron, Shahid, Jeans Rockstar Chohun. And Shake and Bake. And, of course, our honorary daddy of the pod, this week, every week, the one and only Nicole Piastri. Thank you so much to our daddies. You make this podcast possible, baby. Until next time, Vankas.
Goodbye, Vanka.
Goodbye. Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Smash that subscribe button, bro.